Hey everyone, Jay Whitner here with Space Headlines. We do an overview of the space news that's going on, and today we're going to be talking about the early part of December 2017. Our first item is that a new caucus in support of NASA was recently formed by a couple of guys in the House. The new caucus already has over 50 members, and they're not really taking action yet because they don't want to get out in front of the next NASA administrator. They are supportive of Bridenstine, and they think that he is going to be confirmed. They want that to happen before they really swing into action, and they're going to naturally be supporting more funding for NASA. Speaking of the NASA administrator, we've passed a landmark recently that this is the longest amount of time we've ever gone without having a NASA administrator. We've gone about 3 times the average waiting time in between administrators so far. And it's not all the fault of the Trump White House, which did take quite a while to make the nomination, but they made it 3 months ago. So certainly part of this is on the Congress as well. The acting administrator, Mr. Lightfoot, has been doing a good job, but to a certain extent, the acting administrator is a little bit of a lame duck because everybody knows a new person is going to come in to take charge for the long run. So that needs to happen, particularly given the new emphasis on return to the moon. We need a NASA administrator to take charge of this effort and figure out how we're going to do it and to coordinate all these activities. Andy Weir, who wrote the very popular book The Martian, which turned into an exciting movie, has come out with his new book, Artemis, that I'm in the middle of right now. I'm enjoying it, so be sure to pick that up. But as part of his book, he sort of outlines a future city on the moon and how it was put together and so forth. Some of the highlights are that the lunar highlands have a lot of what's called northite. And in a northite, there's aluminum, silicon, and oxygen in large amounts. So this is exactly the constituents for a lot of your main component parts of building something. Uh, Aluminum for metal, silicon for windows, oxygen has many important uses. But without giving away much of the book, the architecture of the base is spheres that are half sunk into the surface of the moon, and each sphere consists of 2 aluminum holes, and the area in between the holes is filled with a lunar regolith to block radiation. And they utilize nuclear power on the moon because of the high power requirements needed to smelt the northite. So it's a very plausible approach, I think, to building a city on the moon. So we'll have to see what the eventual city actually looks like. We're seeing more and more focus on 3D printing in space for a variety of reasons, but perhaps predominant among them is that we need to make things out of the materials on site, and 3D printing is one mechanism for doing so. NASA has a big project underway right now to do a prototype facility about how we could do 3D printing of multiple materials in space. This is a $10 million project, and although the headline here talks about Tethers Unlimited, it's really 3 different companies that are involved in this. There's Tethers Unlimited, there's also Interlog and TechShot. And this effort is all part of NASA's Next Step program. And they're going to be doing some very exciting stuff. It's already clear, so more power to them. Can't wait to see what they come up with. A while back, I think it was 2016, the beam module from Bigelow Aerospace was sent up to the International Space Station for various testing. And it was attached to the ISS, and it's been holding pressure very well, and they learned the characteristics of the module. The news is NASA has just extended the contract to use the beam module for 3 additional years. And one of the big focuses of what they want to do is learn more about the characteristics of radiation and these Bigelow expandable structures. So far, it looks like they block radiation similarly to a space station module. They want to experiment a bit with how they could provide additional radiation protection. How could they enhance this expandable module to be more radiation proof, for lack of a better word? If there's good results in how they could enhance the radiation protective aspects of it, this might be the proper way to build the deep space gateway people have been talking about, to get a larger structure, faster, lower mass, and more affordably. In the UK, they have some very aggressive goals for growing their share of the international space market. And a big part of their strategy is to be space startup friendly. So they're putting resources toward this, and they've already come quite a long way in this approach. Basically, they want to provide tech support and aggressive financing to attract these small startups to the UK. They are what this news item was triggered by is they were opening up several new incubators. This is going to bring the total number of space incubators in the UK to 15 different ones. The biggest one is in Harwell, that currently houses 80 different space startups. And they have plans for that particular incubator to grow to 200 space startups in one place. This, I think, makes a great deal of sense, and this is a model that we should be pursuing here in the US. There's obvious synergies to having a lot of different space firms co-located, with all the cross-pollination of ideas and business that would create. So, good work to the UK. Let's do the same thing. We had some action from the White House in terms of space policy. And the new policy is a new direction for NASA. It's been anticipated. It wasn't a surprise, really. But the White House has directed NASA that we want to have a return to the moon with people, and that it should be more than like a flags and footprints kind of a thing. So there's not a lot of detail here, but they are saying a human lunar return. They're saying this is going to be reflected in the NASA budget for 2019, and it comes with a unanimous recommendation of the Space Council. Thinks this is a good idea. And despite the fact that there's very little definition here, it is very significant, because in the previous administration, there was such a Mars focus that NASA people weren't really even supposed to be talking about the moon. So this does open the door to planning, to thinking, to movement toward the human lunar return. So this is fantastic news. A Japanese company recently raised a lot of money, $90 million for their Series A, which is a record-setting thing in Japan, and I believe might also be a record-setting number for a Series A for a space company in the US as well. But at any rate, what are they going to do with this money? They want to develop a lunar lander for small payloads and small rovers to go to the moon. They want to orbit the moon in 2019, and they want to land on the moon in 2020. Their forecasts indicate that by the year 2040, 1,000 people are going to be living on the moon. So very aggressive plans from Japan. I'm happy to see it, and maybe it'll get us a little bit stirred up over here. Blue Origin had some interesting activities. They had a flight with their Crew Capsule 2.0, which you can see from this image. One of the noteworthy aspects is look at those giant windows. They are saying that these are the biggest windows that have ever flown in space, and certainly a very interesting aspect for their tourism plans. You know, people want to be able to see out. So, in addition to this new crew capsule, which by the way, nobody was on this flight; it was a test flight. In addition to this, they had a new version of the rocket. The New Shepard rocket has flown before. The first one that came out of the factory flew 5 times and was retired. So this is like the second edition of the New Shepard rocket. The flight went well. It reached an altitude of over 300,000 feet. So more power to Blue Origin. Great news for Jeff Bezos and for Florida and for us all. For a long time, people have been talking about the idea of satellite servicing in orbit, whether it is refueling, whether it is very basic repairs, this kind of thing. It's been discussed for a long time, but we're actually starting to see movement in this direction. The news item is at Orbital ATK, they have a subsidiary called Space Logistics that wants to work on this. They've gotten approval from the FCC for the early parts of doing this. So now they have the green light for them to send their vehicle, it's called the Mission Extension Vehicle, to a satellite and rendezvous with it and dock with the satellite. And then additional approvals will be needed for fueling, movement, and so forth. But the initial approvals are in, so we might actually see some actual servicing of in-space satellites very, very soon. And it's a big money situation. Satellites can easily cost and often do hundreds of millions of dollars. If you could extend the lifespan of these satellites, the economic benefits are obvious. That's it for space headlines for the front half of December of 2017. Happy holidays to everyone. We'll be back in roughly 2 weeks covering the back half of December, and we'll see you then. Take care.